Welcome, dear brothers and sisters. We are growing in the liturgical year, and today we come to the 22nd Sunday of Ordinary Time. And in this Ordinary Time, Jesus is our teacher, and he wants to teach us the way of discipleship. So today, I would like to entitle our meditation on the joy of Christian discipleship. Now you may say, Father, this is a rather contradictory title, the joy of Christian discipleship, because discipleship involves pain, hardship, and even to the extent of giving up ourselves for the Master. So where is the joy in this? Well, the joy comes to become more fully like the Master. And that is why I've entitled this meditation as the joy of Christian discipleship. Now, what is discipleship? And who is a disciple? What is discipleship? Discipleship is taking in your life for a model a teacher, and looking at the teacher, focusing on the teacher, and ultimately becoming like the teacher. So discipleship involves a lot of effort, a lot of pain, a lot of giving up, and becoming like the Master. So discipleship is following, and in this case, following Jesus. Following Jesus in his ways, in his footsteps, and how he wants us to become like him. Who is a disciple? A disciple is one who focuses on the Master, and focuses not only his sight, but also focuses his heart, focuses his mind, focuses his whole life on the Master. So therefore, we have answered these questions: what is discipleship, and who is a disciple? Now let us zoom into today's gospel. What does Jesus invite us to today? There are 4 steps of discipleship that Jesus is calling us to. So let us begin with the first step. And what is the first step? The first step, Jesus says, if anyone wants to become my follower, then he should renounce himself, deny himself, carry his cross, and follow me. So here there are some beautiful steps. In this first step, there are some more steps. So what is the first step in this pathway that Jesus is teaching us? Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, so therefore it's our desire to be his disciple. But ultimately, it's a grace. Jesus gives us the grace to become his disciple. And that grace begins by listening to his call. So therefore, Jesus is inviting us to follow him. If anyone, so everyone is invited to follow Jesus. And I must ask myself, am I ready to follow Jesus? Do I want to follow Jesus? And if I want to follow Jesus, then Jesus tells me the next steps to follow him. Namely, to deny myself. Now this word deny is a word that many of us don't understand. What is the meaning of denying myself? To deny myself is to renounce myself, to renounce my ego, to renounce my pride, to renounce my priority, and the priority of putting myself first. So in this discipleship, Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, then renounce yourself. Put away the ego of yourself. Put away the priority of yourself. Don't think of yourself all the time. Don't think of yourself first. Think of yourself last. And when you can think of yourself last, then you are ready to do the next step. And what is the next step? To pick up your cross, to carry your cross. What is my cross? My cross can be anything. My cross can be my work. My cross can be my marriage. My cross can be my friends. My cross can be my health. My cross can be my inabilities. Whatever is an obstacle is the cross. So Jesus says, pick up that obstacle. Pick up that cross that is preventing you from going on ahead. And when you can pick up that cross with love, with devotion, with kindness, with patience, with forgiveness, when you can pick it up, place it on your shoulder, just like Jesus who carried the cross on his shoulder, place it on your shoulder and then come and follow whom? Follow me. Jesus says, follow me. In other words, focus on Jesus. The focus of my life must be the focus on Jesus. And in that focusing of myself on Jesus, then I bring everything to him. I bring all my obstacles, I bring all my difficulties, I bring all my pains, all my limitations, and I place it in the hands and in the heart of Jesus. This is the very first step of discipleship. And the first step of discipleship is, as Jesus says, if anyone wishes to be my disciple, let him forget himself, deny himself, renounce himself, and follow me. The second point of following Jesus in this pathway of becoming a disciple of Jesus, in the gospel today, Jesus says this: if anyone wants to save his life, he will lose it. And anyone who loses his life for my sake and the sake of the gospel will find it. Now, what does Jesus really mean? He's asking us, if anyone wants to save his life, save what life? What is the meaning of the word life in this context here? Life is what we make ourselves of, and we invest in our life. Look at you and look at me. We're all investing our life, our time, our effort, our talent, our abilities in the life that we want to build. Let me ask you this question. What is the life that you want? Very often we blame people for the life that we are living. We blame our parents, we blame our relatives, we blame circumstances, we blame friends, we blame our fellow workers. But actually, when you look at it, it's our choice. What is the choice that you have made for your life? And what is the choice that I have made for my life? That is where Jesus comes in. And he says, if anyone wants to save his life, and we're all trying to save our life, we're all trying to build a life of security, we're all trying to build a life of comfort and ease, and we want a life that will give us pleasure. That is the content of our life. Now listen to what Jesus says. Jesus says, if anyone wants to save his life, he must lose it. And he will lose it. Now what we are building up every day, ultimately we will lose. We're going to leave everything back. Imagine, for example, you have earned a lot of money, you have earned a lot of wealth. Where are you going to keep it and give it to whom? Are you going to take it to heaven? Nobody so far has ever taken any suitcase to heaven. All that we see people going with is in a coffin. And that is what Jesus says. Anyone who saves his life will lose it. In other words, here's an invitation. Jesus is inviting us to lose our lives for him. And when we can lose our lives for him, then we will save it. And this is what he demands of us. He wants us to take a risk for him. So to save our life is not to take risks, but to lose our life is to take risks for Jesus, to dispel fear and not wanting to be in control of our life. This is the risk that we take. This is how we lose our life for Jesus and for the sake of the gospel. When we can do this, then truly we are in the hands of Jesus. And Jesus, remember, loves us. And he is inviting us to follow him. And when we can follow him, then we have every security. Because when we follow him, he's not going to abandon us. In fact, he tells us in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 11, he tells us, I will never leave you, I will never abandon you. This is our security. This is what we're going to give up our lives for. And we are going to take a risk to live Jesus every day. As we go back and ask ourselves, what is the topic of our meditation? The topic of our meditation is the joy of Christian discipleship. The joy of Christian discipleship. And we are spelling out in very easy terms and in simple language what Jesus is calling us to, what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. Now we come to point 3 in the gospel today, and this is what Jesus tells us today. He says, "What will it profit anyone who gains the whole world but forfeits his own life?" What does it profit anyone who gains the whole world? That's exactly what we're doing. We are working hard. We're working for wealth. We want to touch our wealth. We want to weigh our wealth. We want to measure our wealth. We want to write down how much we own. And we are investing our whole self in it joyfully. And we are going through so much of trouble, so much of pain. And more than that, we are looking at others and we're saying, look how God has blessed them with so much of wealth. Look at me. I have nothing. I have no house. I have no bank account. I have no jewelry. And we are working hard for all this. We are investing our life. All that is good to a certain extent. But this is the challenge of Jesus, and this is the joy of Christian discipleship. What does it profit a person, you and I, if we gain the whole world and suffer the loss of our own soul? So this is the challenge of Jesus. This is the challenge that Jesus is giving us. What if you gain the whole world with all the wealth that you have and I have, and then we forfeit our life? What life is Jesus talking about? We need to invest in our following of Jesus in order to be given the gift of eternal life. This is what Jesus is talking about and wants each one of us to reconsider. Reconsider your following of Jesus. Is your following and my following of Jesus really serious? Not only serious, really authentic, genuine, so that we are becoming like Jesus every day as we grow in our discipleship. And this is the joy of Christian discipleship. We are meditating on the joy of Christian discipleship. Remember, discipleship is an act of joy, is a state of joy. Why? Because we are focused on Jesus, focused on the Master. The disciple is focusing and staring at the Master and looking at him all the time and becoming more and more like the Master. And that is why there is a great joy. It's like a little child wanting to become like his dad, like his mom. I want to be like dad, tall and handsome. So the child has this desire, this focus on his parents to become more and more like his parents. So the fourth step in today's gospel that Jesus is talking about is, he says, he will repay each according to their work. What a wonderful statement. We should not be angry at this. We should not be afraid of this, because this is the end result of discipleship, that the Lord will repay us according to our work. And what is the work that we are doing? We are doing the work of Jesus. We are investing our whole self in Jesus to become like him. So there will be a reckoning. There will be a balancing of the books. There will be a time to receive what we have invested in our becoming like Jesus. So let us not be afraid. It's like every student who at the end of the year has to face his final exam. Sometimes because we don't study, because we don't invest ourselves with a focus, with a purpose, and with a direction, that is why when the time comes for the final exam, then we are all in jitters and we are afraid. We become nervous and we are full of stress. No, that is not what discipleship is all about. Discipleship is all about joy, the joy of becoming more and more like Jesus. And remember, there will be this results time, there will be this reckoning time, there will be this balancing of the books, there will be the time to receive what we have invested. So let us look at our quality of discipleship in Jesus. Ultimately, following Jesus should give us great joy, should become more and more like Jesus and bring great joy, happiness, fulfillment, and delight in our hearts. So I would like to end this meditation by asking ourselves, to be a disciple of Jesus, then there are 4 things that we have to put in place. And these are the 4 things that we need to put in place if we wish to be a disciple of Jesus. Number 1, we need to love Jesus. If I don't love Jesus, I will never become like him. Then my following of Jesus will only be temporary, and when any problems come, any difficulties come, then I will fall away. So the first thing that we need to put into place to follow Jesus and be his disciple is to love Jesus. Secondly, love needs to be nourished, and it needs to be nourished by the second thing, namely to read the word of Jesus, to read his word. What is his word for me every day? And the third, I need to become every day more and more like Jesus, making every effort with the power of his grace to put into my life more and more of the Master. Remove myself and put the Master into my life and become like him. In other words, I need to be a mirror reflecting Jesus in my life. The fourth and last point in which we are helping ourselves to become more and more a disciple of Jesus and putting into place all these steps so that we can become like him with his grace, with his power, with him walking by our side every day, and that is on prayer. We need to pray every day to become like Jesus. What is prayer? Prayer is union with Jesus. It's our lifeline in our relationship with Jesus, so that his mind and my mind become one. His heart and my heart become one. His life and my life becomes one. Now, I'd like to recapture for you these 4 points on how to be a disciple of Jesus. In order to be a disciple of Jesus, then I need to put into place these 4 beautiful little points. Number 1, I need to love Jesus with all my heart, with all my mind, with all my strength, with all my will, with my whole life. Secondly, I need to read his word every day and make his word the foundation and the pillars of my life. The third, I need to become more and more like Jesus every day, making an effort to think like him, to love like him, to share like him, to forgive like him, and to be like him. And finally, the fourth point, to help me become a disciple of Jesus, I need to pray. And to pray with all my heart, with all my mind, with my whole self, focusing on Jesus, who has invited me to join him in discipleship. This is the joy of Christian disciple. This is the joy of being a disciple of Jesus and following him, to become like him every day. Amen.